Okay, so what are we working on today? Yeah, that thing, the Buzz. 2008 Hyundai Accent. Today working on the air compressor. Well, it's the air conditioning compressor, the AC compressor. It's seized up. So I'm trying to get it back on the road. It hasn't been on the road for a while. So let's take a look, see what's going on with it. Okay, so as you can see, lots of hoses and things lying around. A big hole in behind the engine here, because that's where the compressor lived, down there. And we'll get back to that later, but the compressor's out of the car, obviously. Let's go take a look. Okay, so there's the compressor. And the reason for removing it is it's seized. Yeah, that doesn't sound so good either. So, it's spinning ratchy, and the pulley is seized. So, time for a new compressor. So, it's held on with 4 bolts. No problem at all. Bang. Take out those 2 bolts. Okay, the top bolts and the bottom bolts. Well, how did that happen? Well, I'll show you. Hang on. Okay, so here's the compressor, basically upside down. These are the top mounting bolts. These are the bottom mounting bolts. No problem on this end of it. But as we start looking over towards the bottom, and they put these nice slot that catches crap, open slots in both sides that catches crap. So when we get back to here, you can see that this portion in here is all corroded. And of course it corroded around the end of the bolts. So when you undo the bolts, okay, so with the bolts sitting in like this, you can see all the crap and rust and corrosion, etc. Settles inside there. Right at the end of right where the bolt as it starts, the threaded starts, and the threading section is in here, and of course into the mounting on the engine. So it just got all corroded right in here. And when you turn it to try to undo it, it just broke right there. No problem at all. You think, okay, I'll just take the bolt out, which obviously the bolt came right out after it broke. But then when I went to take the compressor off the engine, the studs sticking out, or the ends of the bolts sticking out. So these guys, corroded parts, sticking inside the engine. This part was all corroded onto the bolt. I couldn't actually get the compressor off. I wiggled it. Finally, just used the torch, my propane torch, and just heated up the casting here, which let it cool a bit, and let it cool. And I was able to get one side I could see freed, just prying on it with a crowbar in behind here. And then I heated this side and did the same thing, wiggled it, and then finally it came free. Then I was left with the stud sticking out, that much of the thread sticking out. So I was able to just grab that with the pair of ice grips and just spin it off. It wasn't really that, the threads weren't jammed in nice and clean inside the engine casting. So there you go. The compressor is off. I do have a new one to put on. Got to get me some new bolts, and we'll mount her back on and get some oil in it and get it charged up. Get obviously all the lines on first. Get it all back together. Get it charged, and hopefully we'll have some AC in the old Hyundai Accent. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do, and I've done it successfully before, pardon my, is weld this threaded part back onto the bolt. So basically, I've just taken it and put it in my drill, spun it, and used my little disc to just cut a 45 on there. And of course, that one's easy to put in the drill. The one with the bolt head is a little harder, so I just taped it onto a socket, into an adapter into the drill. So now I can spin it. It's a little wobbly, but basically just spin it and hold the die grinder up to it. While that's spinning, and you accomplish that on the end. And then with that, now I can put that on there. And now I've got a big area to weld it. So I'll get a thorough weld right from the bottom, right from inside, not just a surface weld on the outside, but right, it'll be a full surface penetration weld for sure. And then I'll just, once it's welded, when we grind her down, and I'll throw a thread chaser on here and just chase it back a little bit. The threads are actually fine. They'll be good. Yeah, making progress, having fun. Okay, so here's the setup for welding the bolt back together, the broken bolt. Basically, I just found a piece of rod the same diameter as, slightly bigger than the bolt. So I just lay that on there, and then lay the bolt on there. It has a bit of a ridge here, so I'm not going to put it. I'm just going to put it down right there, and then set that right to there. The ground's on there, so now we can just put a tack in here. We'll roll it over, put a tack on the other side, and check the alignment and everything, and then we can just slowly build up the weld all around, and it'll be lumped up, of course, once I get too far, but we'll just finish welding her up. It'll be bigger, and then we'll just take the grinding wheel to it, clean all that up. This is the important part of the threads, right up to about here. This part here doesn't really matter. That's the part that I was able to grab with the vice grips. So that should work. Let's give it a whirl. So because of the threading on here, it's a slightly bigger diameter than the shaft of the bolt here. So I just wrapped a piece of wire, fine wire on it, which now centers this within there, that slot. And then that'll line that up a little straighter. Not perfect, but good enough for the job that is required. Okay, so there's the two bolts all welded up. Yeah, should be good enough. Take the die grinder to them and clean them up and see what they look like. Okay, so there's obviously the new compressor versus the old compressor. And I was showing you the pulley on here. Very ratchet, and that one won't even move. And the new one, of course, nice and smooth. Perfect. There's my welded bolts. Fit like a glove. I ran the 8 by 1.25 die over the threads. Lots of threads sticking out. Perfect. Good to go. Let's get it installed back on the vehicle.